This episode, the California Energy Commission is to ban natural gas hookups in new construction. Larry and John are going to have a discussion about potential new regulations in California limiting natural gas hookups in new construction. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled California Energy Commission to Ban Natural Gas Hookups in New Construction. To help me explain them, we're here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John. Johnny, what's been going on this week?
Oh, man. What's been going on this week?
Just make something up.
Oh, okay. Well, I was out on my yacht. And
you were?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm
waiting for my invitation, but keep going.
Okay. Well, you're not going to get that, but you can keep waiting. I did a lot of work on a house the other day, and I went through about 50 or 55 feet of cove molding just trimming out the sides of some posts. That was quite gaudy and unbelievable, but that's what I had to replace, and it was quite a mess. So I really want to forget about it because it was so awful. But anyways,
that's one of your greatest customers.
That's
John.
One of my.
They took all that interior.
Oh, you froze up. Larry.
Job security.
Yeah. Say that again, Larry. You just froze up a little bit.
I said he took all of that interior trim, and put it out into an exterior damp area. It's called job security for you.
Right. That's job security. And then on top of that, don't put any gutters around it. And then on top of that, use nails used for indoor use on the outside. So with that, you get rust, rot, and stink, and it's awful. So anyways,
and he put it into pressure treated wood as well. So it's
it's a twofer. Yeah. So yeah, that's a quick tip right there. Don't use nails that aren't meant for pressure treated nails or screws or any fasteners, because that pressure treated material eats them right up.
Eats them up.
Anyway.
All right, so we were reading was it Builder Code magazine? No, what's the name of the magazine?
Yeah,
anyway, Builder magazine,
yeah.
I believe.
Yep.
A recent Los Angeles Times article about the fact that the California Energy Commission wants to make a mandated all-electric homes. They want homes to be all electric. And we just wanted to have, hopefully, a very non-political conversation about this particular status that they want to try to go to, and just kind of talk about some of the causes and effects and things that might potentially occur anyway, with your home if you were to go into an all-electric type situation. Now, here in Atlanta, it's not uncommon to have all-electric homes. I actually have one of my rental properties. I would call it all electric because it has a tankless hot water heater that is electric, and it's an electric stove, and it's electric heat, and so forth and so on. So I have personally, I have a certain amount of experience with an all electric home, but there's other things, because John and I both grew up in the Northeast, John grew up in Chicago, I grew up in the Northeast and outside of Rochester, New York. Anyway, long story short, it gets cold there, and there's some kind of different things that you have to think about when you get into kind of these things. So, Johnny, let's just kind of go over this synopsis. So already California, how many cities in California are highly discouraging natural gas hookups?
And I assume by highly discouraging, that means no. I think there is, what did I read here? 40
cities.
40 cities, something right now that
from the article. Yep.
That are restricting natural gas hookups.
And there's some caveats to that. They'll allow you to dry your clothes with natural gas and maybe have a stove, although they're highly discouraging the stove because of indoor air pollution, which is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I
Too, folks, I we want to throw this out early. Folks, if you live in California, would you please send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com, as to what your opinions are on this? Because we're two older guys who grew up, back in the old days, and I'm not going to say we have a hard time with this, but this is not applicable to all locations, in our opinion. Again, I grew up outside Rochester, New York, where we get lots of snow, and John grew up in Chicago, where it gets lots of snow and it's really cold, like really cold in Chicago. And my traditional wisdom is, I'm going to tell you that when it's really cold, like
yeah.
below 20, that the heat pumps and things that we've seen, or that I've seen, that I have personal experience with, do not work well when it's really, really cold.
And
Really,
that's something else. It gets cold. It gets cold in California,
it
right?
does.
All right.
Yeah.
Depending upon where you live, it gets cold. San Francisco area. I mean, the whole. You get higher up into the mountains and things like that. But I guess to echo what you just said, I don't quite understand this as what's the word I'm looking for? Really, the result that we're looking for, in terms of saving in the environment type of thing, with restricting natural gas, which on all accounts is probably one of the cleaner, if not one of the cleanest energy sources that we have, and we're sitting on a sea of it.
Correct. And so it's just a bit of, I know in my case, I'm going to speak for myself. I am an environmentalist. I'm really all for clean technologies. I really understand the clean technology side of it. You've heard on this show before, both John and I have extensive experience in the model RC world, dealing with batteries, electric, all kinds of. We really have a more comprehensive, I think, than we've ever let on, as far as what we know about electric energy and electric vehicles and things like that, based on experience with very, very, very high performance aircraft that are small in scale, but they're very, very high performance. As we say, John, I mean, my planes went 150 to 200 miles an hour in actual speed. We were pumping out 60 to 100 amps out of a small battery, and we understand some of the chemistries and some of the, a lot more about this than we let on maybe here on this show. But we also work in the world of construction, and we understand some of the advantages of electric and some of the disadvantages of electric. And in my case, mostly I think it's really based on what your geography or your topography. Well, it's a combination of your geography and your climate, your local climate is. So if you're in a mountain house, you have a very, very different climate than you do in a sea level house, and you have different concerns in each of those situations. And part of my concern is when we draw these broad mandates. California is a great example. There's homes in California that are above 10,000 feet sea level, and there's homes that are at sea level. It's really hard to give a broad mandate based on those two very, very different geographies and climatologies, because they're different climates. And so it's just kind of a bit of, John and I are cause and effect guys, right, John? So we always like, if you take the hammer and you hit your hand, what happens? Well, it hurts, right? And if you hit your hand hard enough, what else happens? Well, maybe you end up going to the hospital with a broken hand. And if you hit your hand with the hammer hard enough to break your hand, and you go to the hospital and you got a cast on, can you now work? So then you drag it into the economic field, and then, and then it's blah, 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 and down the field it goes. There's a whole lot of unintended consequences that occur when people get into some of these broad descriptions of things that happen. And this is one that we'd just like some feedback. We really would. We'd like to understand. We are all for protecting the environment.
I guess Larry, just to pause you there a second, one of the things that occurs to me is that, we always hear about these rolling brownouts in California, where they don't have enough electricity as it is.
Right.
And you alluded to the battery technology. The battery technology just isn't there to store solar, during the night where you're going to get it. The sun goes away, right?
Right. Right.
So we don't have that storage capacity yet. And
right.
So if everybody's home is all electric, everything is electric, I don't understand, and cars going, I don't understand that they have the capacity to even think about doing this when they have rolling brownouts right now without this mandate. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's just one of those things that we think about from a cause and effect side. We just think about these kinds of issues, and it affects us. We like I say, I have an all electric home. Now it's a small home. It's about it's a little less than 1,000 square feet. And I will say that one of the things we have a tankless hot water heater in that facility. Johnny, it takes 80 amps of power to run that bad boy. 80
well,
amps on a 200
and you
amp
think
service.
and you think about this, and you have electricity, and it's really not that efficient, because you have to on the supply side, you have to create electricity.
Right.
It has to be then transported.
Correct.
You know, and it has to be split, and then it comes back and it does the same thing as it started off as, from heat. So you're turning
Correct.
something into, electricity, and then you turn it back into heat, where natural gas is just, you just send it down the pipeline and you're burning it just the way it comes out of the ground. I mean, it's like boom, right? So I don't really get this. I mean, I really don't.
Well,
but
I think the intention is good. I think the intention is to protect the environment and address the climate change issue, that the perceived climate change issue, if you want to call it that, that's going on right now, and to reduce carbon emissions. And I'm not against any of that, really. It's just, I just don't know if our technology is there right now for this, because again, we don't have the ability to store energy effectively at this point. We really don't have the ability to create energy in renewable sources at this point. Again, it's a technology issue. This is not a political discussion. It literally is a technology issue. We just don't have the technology right now to effectively create enough renewable energy that would sustain this. Particularly, I'm not even sure that California can sustain it, let alone any mandates that might come in other places as well. There's just a lot of technology that's missing. It seems, at least that's what my research shows. There's just a lot of technology that's missing to be able to effectively do this.
Right.
And we do have things, I worked in alternative fuels in the trucking business, and I know that side of the world pretty well. And I understand the whole internal combustion side of the world pretty well. And natural gas really works really, really well. The only thing that burns cleaner than natural gas is hydrogen. And hydrogen has its own challenges because it requires very high pressures and things like that. It's also difficult to make. It's expensive right now under current technologies. It's rather expensive.
And generally, how is hydrogen made? With electricity.
With electricity. Yeah.
So, here we are back to the sore spot again. Back to that same thing. You got to create it. It's not gonna, just doesn't come out of the wall, folks. It starts somewhere. Like I wanted to echo a thing, that, when I first saw this, one of the things that I wanted to, make an appeal to the folks that listen to us out in California, and just kind of get some key feedback, once again, to echo that, to see what you're thinking about this, because to me, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but man, I would think that it's going to cost a lot more to live out there doing all these kind of things, but
it would seem that way.
It would seem that way.
It would seem that way. And so if you have some feedback, if you do live in California or you do live in an all electric house, send us some emails, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com, and send us an email. Let us know what you think, or post it on our Facebook page. We'd like to get this discussion kind of going, because we are struggling for more information. We just don't see it at this point. Again, it's at this point that I don't see it being a viable alternative again at this point. And again, folks, I own an all electric house. Now, this particular house is in central Georgia, where it does not get as cold as it does here in North Georgia. And in that case, it works just fine. It really works just fine. But not all climates are like Central Georgia.
I'll tell you what, boy, just the thought of having my natural gas taken away is not a good thought for me. I love the natural gas appliances that I have, furnaces, the stove, so on and so forth, the dryer. It just performs better. Matter of fact, if you don't use natural gas if you like to cook certain foods, you're not going to be able to cook them with electric, just because of the instantaneous, the heat and the off and on. I think of a couple of Italian dishes and things that need to be done that way. But if that's kind of on a tangent side, but I just really enjoy having it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. In that article from the New York Times, one of the groups that is actually fighting this all electric ordinance is the California Restaurant Association.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
That's funny you said. Okay, yeah. I didn't get that far in this article.
And they're doing that largely because of the fact of what you just said, is that for cooking purposes, natural gas it has advantages.
Yes.
Folks, those
a real
that
fire.
Cook.
Yes.
Yeah, that ability to change the heat basically instantaneously and to be able to regulate that heat with much more precision than you can do with electric at this point. I think electric, never have really understood that. Theoretically, you should be able to get electric to be much more precise than gas, but to date, it doesn't seem that way. Right. So, and I do a lot of cooking, we cook on natural gas because we really like natural gas, you know. So anyway, but that's one of the groups I read in that article. They're opposing this because almost all, I'm going to say probably, I don't know of any commercial restaurant I've ever been in that I've been in the back runs on anything but gas.
That's funny. Okay, Larry. Well, I'm glad you made it through, because here's the 8 pages I didn't make it through. I didn't make it through them all. And you'll see I've highlighted some things here, but So
folks, there you go. John did not do his prep for this show.
No, I'm just
winging
it.
Take him out behind the food shed and give him a as we say here in the South. He's just winging it. So anyway, Johnny, you know what?
It's natural gas time.
God, it's can't answer that one, Johnny. Just because I had a beef and bean burrito this morning for breakfast, I'm not gonna answer that one. Anyway, I was out there the other day. So the other day, I walk out in the yard, and there, lo and behold, there's the spaceship. I started taking that bad boy apart, and do you know what it was powered by?
Regulations.
Natural gas. Okay. That's right.
All right.
Folks, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors. We would really appreciate it. Send them a link. Have them listen to all this craziness. By the way, we do ad-lib all that spaceship landing or take it apart. Don't ask me where it comes from. No. Yeah, because believe it or not. Questions, comments, or concerns, email questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. Check out our website. Again, that's handymanprosradioshow.com.
Right. And subscribe to our trash this, right?
You can try it. Well, no, you should read it. You should probably do it for next year.
Yeah, I just got schooled in what I need to know. So I don't
there you go. We do have a Facebook group as well, and that's at Handyman Pros on Facebook, and we're on Twitter too at Handyman Radio. Folks, we want to thank you for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.